Mow 2 lawns a day for 1 summer and turn it into $1.3 million when you retire with no special knowledge or extra work. Hey guys, I'm excited to share with you today how you can become a millionaire just by mowing lawns for 1 summer. But I'm going to be honest, I've got something even better at the end, and that is how you can become a billionaire. Yes, a billionaire with a B, just using what Dave Ramsey refers to as average gains in the market. So nothing spectacular, just being average, how someone could become a billionaire. And if you don't believe me, then at the end of the video, don't subscribe and don't hit the like button. But I would ask if I can show you how a person can become a billionaire with a B, that you would smash that like button and subscribe at the end of the video. All right. So the key to this all has to do with compound interest. And compound interest is just when your money grows every year, but each year it grows more than the previous year. And so let's run 4 situations. In the first situation, imagine there's some money and we put it in a hole in the ground and it just sits there. In the second situation, you take some money and you throw it in a savings account. In the third situation, you buy some bonds. And in the fourth situation, you put some money in the stock market at average returns. And we're going to run it from when you start at age 22 until 70 years old.
To help us to understand what compounding is, I've made this sheet. And so we're going to use the 4 categories: hole in the ground, bank, bonds, and average of stock market. And so we're just going to use what I feel is about average returns for those, and we're going to compound them over 48 years. Now, where did 48 years come from? That's simple. If you were to take someone who got out of college at 22 and started investing, and they stopped investing and saw how much money they had when they were 70. And 70 is not when you're going to retire, but you probably have some money saved up when you're retired already, and hopefully you don't have to touch that nest egg till you're 70. So from 22 to 70, that's 48 years. So if we come over here and we look at hole in the ground, how much would we expect our return to be? And that's easy, 0%. So after 1 year, right here, you'll have $0. After 2 years, you'll have $0. After 3 years, $0, all the way down to our 48th year, $0 as we expected. So that's no good. If you're trying to save with throwing money in the hole in the ground, it's not going to get you anything. If you take your money and you put it in a bank account, in a savings account, you probably can't get quite 1% most of the time, but we're just going to say 1%. We'll be generous and say you get 1%. And what you notice is after the first year, you've got $10 you made in your return. The interesting thing is the second year, you didn't make $10 again. You made $10.10. Where did that extra 10 cents came from? So it came from the fact that you started with $1,000, but the next year you had 1,010. So this year, instead of just earning interest on the first 1,000, you're earning on the first 1,000 plus that $10. And so every year a little bit more money goes in. So every year you're making a little bit more money. And that's what compounding is. It's where every year the amount of money you had the year before allows you to make a little bit more money. So 48 years later, you started with $1,000. 48 years later, if you leave your money in a savings account, you'll have $1,612. So you've earned $612.23 for free for doing nothing. That's compounding. But that's not really probably going to allow you to retire or really do anything. Bonds, probably historically you can say that you can get somewhere around 3%. Some years it's more, some years it's less. But we're going to type in 3% as a safe kind of average. So notice, instead of getting $10 a year, you're getting $30, which adds up a lot quicker. And then it's $30.90, and then $31, and here we're making $40, and here we're making $60 a year. But the time we're getting to the 48th year, we're making $120 a year, and after that 48th year, we've made $4,132. So you started with $1,000, now you're at $4,132. This is looking way better than putting your money in a hole in the ground, and way better than putting it in a savings account, hoping that you can just leave your money in a savings account account and invest enough and just save enough to retire that way. So bonds look way better than anything we've seen so far, but we have another option, and that's the stock market. So versus me telling you what the average of the stock market is, what I'd rather do is I would rather show you what the average of the stock market is according to several professionals. So I pulled up 3 web pages to look at to see the stock market's average, because you've always heard don't just go to one place, you want to get several. So we're going to look at 3 today. We're going to start at nerdwallet.com, a major website. And here's what they say. What is the average stock market return? And they say the average stock market is historically 10% annually before inflation. And they go on to say the average stock market returns about 10% per year for nearly the last century. A second page, wallethacks.com. And what you see right here is the compounded annual gain from 1965 through 2018 is 9.7%. Almost 10%. They don't go back as far as the other website does. They only do through 65, but it's almost 10%. And the last website I want to go to is Dave Ramsey's website, DaveRamsey.com, and he takes a little bit higher approach on it. He talks about getting 12% return on investment. I personally am more on the 10% side, but then again, I certainly would never consider myself more of a pro than Dave Ramsey's. So let's see what he says. He says, with Dave, you can expect to make 12% on your investments. He's using a real number that's based on the historical average return of the S&P 500. And he goes on to say the current average annual return from 1923, that's the year of the S&P started, through 2016 is 12.25%. And then he includes these little things that you can click on. So let's click on one of them. And it shows you each year how much the stock market has earned. And you can see in 2020, it wasn't 12%, it was 18%. 2019, it went up 31%. 2018, -4, so it went back. 2017, up 21, up 11, up 1, up 13. So that's of note and kind of cool that you can go see each year how the S&P 500, which is basically the average of the stock market, how it's been doing. And what you can know from that is, please don't assume that if you put money in the stock market that you're going to get 10% in your first year, your second year, your third year. Sometimes it takes a long time for the stock market to average out. So, knowing what we know now, that the stock market usually probably averages somewhere between 9.6, 9.7 to 12, 12.25%. I think it's safe for us, for our learning purposes, we're going to use 10% as the percent return. So I'm going to type in 10 and watch immediately what you see. Your $1,000 in 1 year, you've made $100, and watch how fast it grows. And it's 110 the next year, 121. And then on that 9th year, you're making more than $200 a year. And then by the time you're down to your 18th year, you're making more than $500 a year. By that 18th year, you're already past the 5,000 mark. But the question is, if you put in $1,000 48 years later, how much would it be worth? And as we roll down, what we're seeing is it would be worth $97,000. You put away $1,000 when you're in college, right when you get out of college, when you're 70 years old, it will be worth $97,000, almost $100,000. Now compare that to these returns. $4,000 in bonds, $1,600 in leaving it in savings, and the same 1,000 as a whole. Here you're making $96,000 profit. Here you're making $3,000 profit. Here you're making $600 profit, and here you're making no profit. So when we're trying to talk about retiring and accumulating wealth, you can make your own decisions. I'm not here to give you any advice on how to retire. I'm just showing you data. Now, I will tell you that this document, you can download this document at the bottom. I've got it linked for you if you want to download it. It takes you to a Google page. You can download it, and you can play with this. You can change all the numbers. If you want to change this to 8%, or if you want to change that to 12%, or you think you're some stock market wizard, you're getting 20%, or you want to say 5%, you can take it and change any of these things around. I think it's a tremendous teaching tool. That's why I created it for you. It is free. I will tell you these numbers are slightly different than if you use the investment calculator, because a lot of them will do compounding slightly different than I do, a little bit fancier way. Mine's a very basic way. A great opportunity to teach kids about how money compounds. Now, I want to take you to my favorite tool for investment compounding, and that is Dave Ramsey's investment calculator. And so we're going to go there. It is probably in all of investments my very favorite tool. It is so much fun to play around with and tinker with the numbers, and you can see how much money you can have for your retirement so you can live the lifestyle that you really want to live when you get older. And in doing so, you learn a lot about, well, if I invest this much, then I'll have this lifestyle, or maybe I need to invest a little bit more, or I'm doing really great. And in doing so, you learn a lot about investment as well, which is really powerful when you talk to financial planners. Some of them are really, really great at their job, and I've met a couple of them that have tried to take advantage of me, but I was empowered through knowing the numbers and having read a few articles to not get taken advantage of. And so I want to share this tool with you. It is totally free. So I know you're going to love it too. You go to Dave Ramsey, and you get on his website. You could just go to daveramsey.com, go to free tools, and then click on investment calculator. So I want to run some scenarios with you. I don't know how old you are at home, but I'm going to run a couple different scenarios. I'm going to start out by saying you're 42 years old, and here it says you're going to retire at 67. That is totally fine. You can put whatever you want. I usually run 70 because I feel like even though I can retire earlier, I probably won't need to start taking money from my retirement right as soon as I retire. I'll have some money ready so I can let it compound for a couple extra years. So I usually put 70 in there. It says, how much have you saved for retirement? So let's say you're 42 and you haven't put away anything for retirement yet, but you got to get started, and you can only put away $100 a month. And it says, how much will you contribute monthly? Let's say you're going to put away $100. That's it. You start with $100 and you put away $100 a month. That's all you can do. If that's all you can do, that's all you can do. And it says, what do you think your annual return will be? And we're going to put in 10% because we've seen that's just kind of the historical average. Not promising you're going to get 10%, but we're just going to say 10% because you got to put something and then hit calculate. Boom. Your initial balance of 100, you put in $33,000 of your own money, and it grew $150,000, which is another way of saying free money, almost $151,000. Total money you have for retirement, $184,684. So that's pretty good. But let's say we change one thing. We just start you 10 years earlier. We're going to leave everything else the same. You're still going to retire at 32, but you're going to start, you're still going to retire at 70, but you're going to start at 32. You're going to put away $100 a month, still same 10%. What happens if you just start 10 years earlier? Boom, $520,000. That is absolutely incredible. And I want to go one step further. What if you started at 22 years old? We still have you the same retirement at 70 years. You're going to put away the same $100. You're getting out of college and you say, I'm just going to put away $100 every year, every month. And that's all I'm going to do. I don't know anything about stocks, so I'm not trying to get some spectacular gains. I'm just trying to be average. I just want to be average with $100 a month. How much would I have when I retire? $1.4 million. That is awesome. You're doing average. You're only putting away $100 a month. Think about it this way. You're contributing $57,000 and you're growing that $57,000. You're gaining $1.3 million, almost $1.4 million for free. Now, Dave Ramsey is so cool. He put this extra graphic for us to really understand how compounding works. Here you go. So check this out. This is the compounding effect. How much every single year your money is worth. This little blue line is the year you become a millionaire. So what's really cool to look at is here in this year, 2024, you would have $4,313. The next year, you would be at $6,000. So you made about $1,700 that year, of which you had to put away $1,200 of it. But let's compare to the last year, remembering you're still only putting away $100 each month. This whole time you're putting away the same amount of money, but whereas you made $1,700 that year, this year you went from $1.29 million to $1.42 million. You made $136,000 that year compared to this year where you only made $1,700. That is compounding, how every single year you make more money than the previous year because your money is working for you.
As promised, let's look at how to become a millionaire by mowing yards. So let's say you get $30 per yard, which is certainly conservative, and you mow 2 yards per day. And truthfully, that should only take you 2 to 3 hours a day, so you have most of your summer day left over. You would make $60 per day. If you were to do that for 6 days a week, you want to take 1 day off where you don't do anything, but 6 days a week, which still, truthfully, that's only about 12 to 15 to 18 hours a week you're working during summer. That would get you $360 per week. Now, if you were to do that for 12 weeks, that means you would have earned $4,320 for your one summer.
So if we say that you've mowed your lawns, you're 12 years old, once again, you're going to retire, take that money out when you're 70 years old. How much have you saved for retirement? We said you can make $4,320 instead of buying a used car with that $4,320, or taking someone out to lots of nice dates, or spending it on video games, all the things you would want to do as a kid, although I guess you wouldn't be taking anyone to a date probably at 12 years old. But instead of spending your $4,320, you're super cool and you invest it in the stock market, and then you're never going to save another penny. You're like, I'm done with this. I mowed some lawns. I'm done. I'm going to get average return. I'm not trying to be fancy with my money and get big returns. I'm just trying to get an average return. How much would I have? As promised, mow 2 lawns a day for 6 days a week, and in one summer, you can turn that into $1.3 million. Actually, truthfully, almost $1.4 million. And look at this, how cool this is. You can see the graph, all this compounding, and he even lets you put it on a pie chart. You can see here, the green represents the growth of the money. This is what happens when your money can grow for a long time. The blue represents what you put in, $4,320. The green represents you got $1.388 million for free. $1.3 million from mowing 2 lawns a day for one summer, and you get Sundays off. That's crazy. For a kid to be able to do that, I mean, you just take that money and invest it. I mean, I know most kids are probably going to instead want to get a car, but if you did instead decide to invest it, $1.3 million. Imagine, what if you did it for 2 years? That's over $2.5 million. Or what if you did it from 12 and 13 and 14, 15, 16, and you did it all the way until you graduated from college, 12 to 22, 10 good years of mowing yards, and at 22 you never do it again. think how much money, $1.3 million for 1 year. Well, I'm sure you can calculate roughly how much that would be if you did it for 10 years. Needless to say, just by mowing lawns for 10 years, just during summers, you would have your retirement taken care of for the rest of your life. You would never have to put in another penny. Isn't that crazy? Imagine someone comes up to you and says, we're either going to give your kid a free ride to college. Not just college, but also their master's degree. So like $200,000 for college is probably about what college costs. All the room, all the board, all the everything, tuition. And not just that, but we're going to spend the other $100,000 or so for a master's degree. So we're going to pay the full $300,000, and you can have that money for their college. It's totally covered. Or your kid has just been born. We will give them $10,000 right now, and we're going to invest it in the stock market at the stock market average, and they can't touch it until they're 70 years old. Go ahead and choose right now which one you want for your kid. So, real life, go ahead and choose. Think about it. I want you to decide if you're choosing for your kid, someone comes up and offers that to you, which would you choose for your child? Free college and master's degree, obviously a good decision, or $10,000 at birth, but it's invested in the stock market, can't touch it till they're 70. Well, let's find out how much that $10,000 turns into, and then after we know that, we'll make a decision as far as, is that what we want to stick with? It's like I said, this is so much fun to play with. So we're going to enter your current age. Now, Dave Ramsey's doesn't let you put money in when you're 0, because that's not really an age. So we're going to put your 1 years old. And so instead of putting 70 here to get a full 70 years, we're going to put 71 years. So that's going to be as if you put it in when you're 0 years old to 70 years old. That's still 70 years. So how much have you saved for retirement? $10,000. They give you $10,000 at birth and say, no college for you. Pay on your own. And how much will you contribute monthly? They're like, nothing. I am done. I washed my hands. $10,000. That's it. What do you think the annual return will be? Same thing. We're not going fancy, just 10%. What do you think? Should you choose the college or should you choose the $10,000? Calculate. $10.65 million. So I just want to change one thing, leaving that the same. So let's say mom and dad, they pick really good stocks. I say really good. Instead of getting 10%, we're going to change it to 12%. Still leaving 70 years old, 70 years for it to compound, still the same $10,000, not contributing anything, 12%, just like Dave Ramsey says right here, not a big stretch. So instead of 10%, it's 12%. I want to show you the difference that 2% can make. Calculate. Boom. $42.65 million. Once again, check out this compounding. In your last year, you go from $37.8 million to $42.6 million. That's like $4.8 million in compounding, and you didn't even put anything away. That is how compounding works. Now, I want to show you the power of making sure you're getting a good return and not paying too much in fees. So whenever you invest in the stock market, there's things called ETFs, index funds, mutual funds, and they all carry fees. Mutual funds usually have a higher fee, index funds usually a little bit lower fee, and ETFs usually a little bit lower fees. And so those fees can eat away at your gains. So with those, you're paying someone to help manage your money, but it does cost you. So I want to show you the difference. Let's say instead of getting 12%, you are going to get 12% in the stock market, but instead you lose 1%. Just 1%. Let's say you paid somewhere around 1% in fees, which I'm not saying is a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying, look at the effects that 1% could have had on this. You were at $42.6 million. Everything the same, just change it to 11% instead of 12%. Now your retirement goes to 21 million. From 42.6 to 21.3. You literally lose almost half of your gains with that 1% over 70 years. So when you're looking at stocks and well, not so much bonds, but mutual funds and index funds and ETFs, all those things which we can talk about in separate videos, it's very important to always look at your fees, because when we're talking about large amounts of money, we can be talking about losing literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
Okay, so which one do you think your kids would choose? $200,000 to $300,000 for their college? Which, let's just be honest, that's more than most parents are doing for their kids. That's an incredible gift. Incredible gift. But do you think they'd rather have that or $42.5 million? I'm pretty sure most everyone's gonna choose $42.5 million for their retirement. And let's be honest, it saves you, since it was only $10,000 to invest, it saves you $290,000. That's really a great deal. But I just wonder, if you were to take the full $300,000, if you were gonna try, if you could, to put them through all the way through college in their master's classes, if you were to take that $300,000 instead of stocking it away to put in some sort of college fund, what if you just invested it at the average of the stock market? If you just took $300,000 and invested it in the stock market for your kid at their birth, and they didn't touch it until they were 70, how much do you think it would be worth?
So we're going to leave it at 1 and 71 like it was, 70 years to grow. We're going to change it to $300,000, your full college amount plus master's degree. And I know that's not realistic for most people, but it is good for us to understand the power of, if you've got time, and maybe this is something that you can't do for, obviously for yourself if you're born, but even for your kids, but maybe you could do it for your grandkids or for your great grandkids, or you can position your kids to be able to do it for their kids or their great grandkids. We're gonna go with 12% like Dave Ramsey says is average. And once again, nothing on here today has been about how to get 20% in stocks and how to blow up your portfolio. We are talking average, the average person in the stock market. How much would it be worth? What do you think? $1 billion. Billionaire. You would be, or they would be, a billionaire, an actual billionaire. So here you can see the graph and how crazy it gets. Like here, it's like, oh, that must be nothing. But there, it's like $10 million. And it just grows and grows and grows. And you can see the final point, $1.279 billion. The year before, they were at $1.135 billion. When you're growing like $90, $100 million a year, and you're only started with $300,000, this is compounding, and maybe not something that you can do for yourself, obviously, and maybe not even for your kids. But you get the power of how you can set yourself up, or your kids up, or your great grandkids up for success, just being average. I hope this has helped.
If you're anything like me, you're probably fixing to head over to Dave Ramsey's to play on his financial calculator just to kind of play around on it. But before you go, I've made this table. It's got several situations for you to look at, and it kind of helps you to notice some things about the investment. So what you notice is I've got several different initial investments, starting at $100, going up to $500, and all the way up to $10,000. And then some of them you invest every month, and some of them you just invest the one time, and they go all the way from 28 years up to 70 years. And then it's got different rates of return from 0 all the way to 12%. And so what I want you to notice is what you see in the numbers, what patterns you're seeing emerge. And then what I did is I went ahead and color coded it. So the yellow ones are when it turns into $1 million. So you can see those patterns as they pop out. What do I have to do to get to the yellow, to the $1 million? And then I thought, well, $1 million might not be enough for some people, so let's color code it green. And green means that's $5 million. So if you're thinking, I want to retire with close to $5 million, I want you to see those options and notice what kind of patterns are emerging as far as getting a rate of return and how long you're going to have to hold the money. And then I went ahead one more step, and if you're married, perhaps you can invest and your spouse can invest, and then what that would mean as well if both y'all are able to invest. I think to make our investment video a little bit more thorough, we've got to talk briefly about taxes. So I want to run over the consequences of having to pay taxes when you retire and kind of what you can do about that. And the additional thing, I want to run the numbers on what happens when you have to pay fees. And when you combo those two negatives together, how devastating it can be on your return. So let's look at an ideal situation that most people could actually do. And that's, we're going to say you start at 22, you're going to put away $500 a month. And when you do that from 22 to 70, we saw from the chart, if you're able to get that 12%, I mean, and who knows if you'll get 12% or 10%, we don't know, but if you could get 12%, that means you'll retire with $15.5 million. Now, if you were doing the same thing, but you had to pay a fee of 1%, instead of getting 12%, you get 11%. That changes from 15.5 million to 10.5 million or 10.49 million. So you're losing $5 million in that 1% fee. Now, on top of that, here's the taxes. If you, on the left column, you've taken care of your taxes and you've put it in a tax sheltered account, it means when you go to retire, you do not pay a penny of taxes. All of that money is yours. You get to withdraw $15 million tax free. But if you have not taken the few minutes that it takes to set up the tax sheltered account, well, you're going to pay taxes on that. We don't exactly know how much, but let's just say 25%, because who knows what it'll be in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You would pay, let's say, 25% taxes on that money, which would end up costing you $2.6 million. So on the left, if you're able to invest yourself without paying someone and you get a tax shelter, then when you retire, you're going to have the $15.5 million, assuming that you put away $500 a month from 22 to 70 at 12%. If, however, you do the exact same thing, $500 a month from 22 to 70, but you have to pay a 1% fee and 25% in taxes, you are going to lose $7.6 million of that money. That's like 49%, almost half of your money is gone because you had to pay a fee and because you didn't set up a tax sheltered account. If you're married, then it doubles. Instead of getting to keep 31 million, you end up keeping 15.7 million, meaning that you have lost $15.3 million. There is no reason for you to end up losing 49%, almost half of your retirement, because of two things you can easily do in just a few minutes.
So I want to summarize with 3 things for you. 1, the more time, the better. So getting in at a younger age gives your money more time to do the compounding. So whether you're 60 or 50 or 40 or 30 or 20 or 10, or you got an infant that's newborn, the more time they have, the better. The second point is you want to make sure you're getting a good return on your money. Putting money in the ground isn't going to get you a good return. Putting money in a savings account doesn't get you a good return. Usually bonds don't get you a good return. Find something that you feel safe with and put it there. But I mean, historically, the market has averaged, we've seen somewhere between 10 to 12%. So those are the kind of figures you can kind of play as a framework with when you're looking for numbers on how much to try to guess for. And the third thing is, make sure you're getting your money in a tax sheltered account. And I'm going to put a video up there for you on tax sheltered accounts for you. If you don't know anything about those, you can watch a video where I will show you how to get a tax shelter so that you're not paying those 20, 25, whatever, 30%, who knows what it'll be by the time you're retiring, how much you're going to have to pay on those gains, so you can get it in a tax sheltered account so you don't have to pay taxes on that when you go to retire.
I hope you enjoyed the video and that it was helpful and that you learned something and that you're encouraged to try out investing on your own. Now that you know how to become a millionaire and you've made it this far, I would ask that you would smash that like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing. It makes a huge, huge difference, especially with this being a brand new channel. If you want to know how to get invested in such a way where you're tax sheltered so you don't have to pay all those taxes when you retire, I've got a video for you right here. In just a few minutes, I'm going to walk you through how you can save all that money in your retirement. It literally can mean the difference of hundreds of thousands or possibly millions of dollars in taxes when you go to retire. Thanks for watching. Do something kind for someone, and I'll see you next time.